Welcome back to Mystery Minds, the channel where we dive into the darkest corners of true crime, uncovering stories that shock, intrigue, and leave us questioning the world around us. In today's case, we bring you a chilling and twisted tale, one of betrayal, obsession, and a deadly addiction. This is the story of the coffee house conspiracy, a tale of trust shattered, and a hidden poison lurking in plain sight. This case will leave you wondering, could something as comforting as a cup of coffee turn deadly? Stay with us as we unravel the dark and sinister events behind the coffee house conspiracy. For years, Black Brew Coffee Roasters was a local treasure, a small café loved for its rich blends and cozy atmosphere. But when a string of mysterious deaths rocked the quiet town of Stonehaven, all eyes turned toward the café. Was it just bad luck? Or was someone turning a morning ritual into a deadly trap? Black Brew Coffee Roasters, a small café nestled in the heart of Stonehaven, was more than just a coffee shop. It was a community hub. Owned by the charismatic siblings Elena and Victor Salerno, the café was known for its artisanal blends and cozy atmosphere. Locals swore by their handcrafted drinks, and tourists made it a point to stop by for a taste of what had been dubbed the best coffee in town. Among the café's regulars were Mia Lancaster and Frank DeSantis. Mia, a journalist with a penchant for uncovering hidden truths, frequented the café for its strong espresso and its even stronger rumors. Frank, a retired detective, sought solace in the familiar, often nursing a cappuccino as he read the morning paper. The café seemed like the perfect escape from the mundane, a place where life's troubles faded with each sip. But the peaceful rhythm of Stonehaven began to unravel when tragedy struck. Over the course of 2 months, 3 regular patrons of Black Brew passed away under mysterious circumstances. At first, the deaths were attributed to natural causes, their symptoms vague and unremarkable. Dizziness, nausea, and eventually cardiac arrest. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Yet, whispers of unease began to spread as the coincidences stacked up. Mia, always drawn to the unexplained, found herself intrigued. Something about the pattern didn't sit right with her. All 3 victims were healthy and middle-aged, with no prior medical conditions that could explain their sudden demise. As she combed through their obituaries and spoke to mutual acquaintances, one peculiar detail emerged. Each of them had been a devoted patron of Black Brew Coffee Roasters. Her curiosity piqued, Mia began to investigate further. She paid closer attention to the café, watching its patrons and the meticulous way Victor prepared the drinks. Victor was known for his obsession with crafting the perfect cup of coffee, often experimenting with new blends and techniques. It was a passion that many admired, but to Mia, it now seemed almost too intense. The café's idyllic charm began to take on a more sinister hue when Mia learned about Ethan Carter, a former barista who had quit his job at Black Brew without explanation. Ethan had been well-liked, and his abrupt departure months earlier had raised eyebrows. Mia tracked him down, eager to understand what had driven him away from such a beloved establishment. What she discovered hinted at deeper secrets within the café's walls. Meanwhile, the unease in Stonehaven grew as another patron fell ill. This time, it was Frank DeSantis. Though he initially dismissed his symptoms as minor, they bore an eerie resemblance to those described in the victims' medical reports. Mia couldn't shake the feeling that the deaths were no coincidence, and she began to suspect that whatever was happening at Black Brew was far more sinister than anyone could have imagined. Mia's curiosity about the mysterious deaths linked to Black Brew Coffee Roasters deepened as she dug further into the lives of those affected. Her conversation with Ethan Carter, the former barista, left her unsettled. Ethan mentioned a growing unease during his time at the café. Victor Salerno's dedication to his craft often crossed the line into obsession. Ethan recalled late-night experiments with unusual ingredients, his former employer spending hours concocting blends in the back room, far away from prying eyes. While Victor's passion was well known, Ethan's descriptions hinted at something more, something dangerous. As Mia processed Ethan's warnings, another shock came to light. Frank DeSantis, the retired detective and loyal patron of the café, began experiencing troubling symptoms. What started as mild dizziness escalated into persistent nausea and fatigue. Concerned, Frank consulted his doctor, who ordered a series of tests. When the results came back, they revealed something alarming. Traces of ricin in his bloodstream. Mia was horrified. Ricin was not just any toxin. It was a lethal, highly potent substance derived from castor beans. Even the smallest dose could kill within days, and its presence in Frank's system was no accident. The discovery confirmed her growing suspicion that the café wasn't just a coincidence in these cases. It was the epicenter of something far darker. Determined to connect the dots, Mia turned her attention back to Black Brew and the Salerno siblings. Elena, the charming and business-savvy co-owner, had always been the public face of the café. Victor, on the other hand, stayed in the background, focused on the coffee itself. The siblings' dynamic seemed harmonious on the surface, but Mia began to sense a quiet tension between them. She recalled seeing Elena Salerno grow visibly uncomfortable when Victor talked about his secret recipes, or dismissed her suggestions for more modern, health-conscious menu options. Mia started piecing together a timeline of the victims' visits to the café, cross-referencing their orders with Frank's. One pattern emerged. All the victims shared a preference for Victor's specialty blends. Victor often insisted on preparing these drinks personally, claiming it was his way of ensuring the perfect flavor. What if it wasn't about flavor at all? The evidence was mounting, but it wasn't enough to confront Victor outright. Mia needed more proof, and she knew she couldn't do it alone. She approached Frank, sharing her findings and the unsettling news of the toxin in his system. Together, they began to unravel the threads of a conspiracy that stretched further than they could have imagined. As more questions surfaced, Mia felt the weight of urgency. How many others might be at risk? Who would be the next victim? Each visit to Black Brew seemed to bring her closer to the truth, but also closer to danger. The café that once felt like a haven now felt like a trap, and Mia couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching her every move. As Mia and Frank dug deeper into the unsettling mysteries surrounding Black Brew Coffee Roasters, a disturbing picture of the Salerno family began to emerge. The café, once a beacon of community warmth, had become a web of suspicion and secrets. Central to it all were Elena Salerno and Victor Salerno, siblings bound by both love and a history laced with tension. The Salerno family had built the café from scratch decades earlier, turning it into a cherished Stonehaven institution. When their parents passed away, Elena and Victor inherited the business. While Elena viewed the café as a stepping stone to other ventures, Victor saw it as the heart of their family's legacy. This difference in vision created a quiet but growing rift between the siblings. Elena wanted to sell the café and move to the city, but Victor was determined to hold on to it, seeing it as his life's purpose. Mia uncovered financial records that hinted at deeper troubles within the business. The café's profits were dwindling, and yet, Victor had been funneling money into obscure purchases, including large shipments of castor beans. Officially, these were labeled as part of his natural flavoring experiments, but given the discovery of ricin in Frank's system, they took on a far more sinister implication. Elena, meanwhile, appeared oblivious to the danger brewing under her nose. Her role was largely managerial, focused on customer service and promotions. She had no interest in Victor's brewing experiments, which she often dismissed as eccentric or unnecessary. Yet, as Mia learned more about the café's inner workings, she began to wonder if Elena's ignorance was genuine, or if she was turning a blind eye to something she couldn't control. The siblings' fragile dynamic had been further strained by their parents' death. Victor, once the more reserved of the two, had grown increasingly controlling and paranoid. Employees like Ethan Carter had noticed Victor's behavior becoming erratic. He would spend hours locked in the café after hours, experimenting with blends and meticulously recording results in a worn leather notebook. None of this had seemed overtly dangerous at the time, but in hindsight, it painted a troubling picture of a man obsessed. As Mia pieced these clues together, the tension in Stonehaven was palpable. Frank, growing weaker by the day, realized his life might depend on uncovering the truth before it was too late. Together, he and Mia tracked Victor's purchases, finding that he had placed orders not only for castor beans, but also for lab equipment capable of extracting toxins. The purchases coincided with the timeline of the victims' deaths, providing a chilling connection. Mia tried to get closer to Elena, hoping to understand her role in all of this. Elena insisted she had no knowledge of Victor's experiments, yet her unease whenever Victor's name was mentioned was difficult to ignore. Whether she was complicit or simply afraid was a question that loomed over the investigation. The more Mia uncovered, the more dangerous her position became. Victor's meticulous nature meant he would notice anyone meddling in his carefully crafted world. Each piece of evidence brought Mia closer to the truth, but also closer to the man who might stop at nothing to protect his secrets. Mia and Frank knew they were walking a tightrope. With the mounting evidence pointing to Victor Salerno, the stakes had never been higher. Mia's instincts told her they were closing in on the truth, but Victor's careful, calculated demeanor suggested he would go to any lengths to maintain control. Time was running out, especially for Frank, whose health continued to deteriorate as the effects of the ricin slowly took their toll. Mia spent hours poring over Victor's purchase records, cross-referencing them with the victims' timelines and their regular orders at Black Brew Coffee Roasters. The pattern became undeniable. Victor wasn't poisoning customers randomly. He was targeting specific individuals. All the victims, she realized, had something in common. They had supported Elena's plans to sell the cafe or had openly questioned Victor's obsessive methods. Each of them had unknowingly become a threat to his vision of the cafe's future, and Victor had silenced them one by one. The more Mia uncovered, the darker Victor's intentions became. She discovered that Victor's experiments with castor beans and other unusual ingredients were far more extensive than anyone suspected. Hidden in the back room of the cafe was a makeshift laboratory where Victor meticulously tested dosages, refining his methods to ensure the poison would mimic natural causes. It wasn't just about maintaining control of the cafe. It was about eliminating opposition in a way that left no trace. Mia and Frank devised a plan to gather irrefutable evidence. They needed to catch Victor in the act, and for that, Frank decided to use himself as bait. Despite his worsening condition, he continued visiting Black Brew, ordering the same drink Victor had served him for years. Mia, meanwhile, secretly monitored Victor's movements, watching for any signs of tampering. The tension reached a boiling point when Mia noticed Victor acting strangely one morning. He was unusually attentive to Frank's order, preparing it himself despite the presence of other staff members. His hands moved with practiced precision, but Mia spotted a small, almost imperceptible gesture as he reached for a container tucked beneath the counter. Her heart raced as she realized he was adding something to Frank's drink. Mia quickly contacted the authorities, sharing everything she had discovered. Local law enforcement placed the cafe under surveillance, using Frank's next visit as an opportunity to gather evidence. The plan was simple, but risky. Catch Victor in the act of poisoning Frank's coffee. As Frank sat at his usual table, waiting for his drink, Mia watched from a distance, her stomach in knots. Victor's calm exterior betrayed no hint of suspicion as he handed Frank the cup. Moments later, officers moved in, stopping Victor before he could retreat to the back room. They seized the drink, which subsequent testing confirmed contained traces of ricin. The arrest sent shockwaves through Stonehaven. Victor was unrepentant, claiming his actions were necessary to protect the cafe's legacy. As Mia watched him being led away in handcuffs, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the surface of the darkness that had taken root in Black Brew. The cafe, once a beloved sanctuary, had become a house of horrors, and the full extent of Victor's twisted actions was only beginning to come to light. The arrest of Victor Salerno sent shockwaves through Stonehaven. The once beloved co-owner of Black Brew Coffee Roasters, who had charmed the town with his dedication to crafting the perfect cup of coffee, was now exposed as a cold, calculating killer. The cafe that had served as a hub of comfort and connection was revealed to be a stage for Victor's dark intentions, leaving the community reeling. As the investigation unfolded, chilling details of Victor's actions came to light. In his interrogation, Victor admitted to the poisonings, but his reasoning was deeply unsettling. To him, the cafe was more than just a business. It was his identity, his legacy, and his life's work. When Elena had begun discussing selling the cafe, Victor saw it as a betrayal of everything their family had built. His victims weren't random. They were carefully chosen. Those who supported Elena's vision or stood in the way of his control over the cafe. Victor viewed his actions as necessary sacrifices to preserve what he considered sacred. He justified his methods as a means to an end, convinced that his intelligence and meticulous planning would ensure he remained untouchable. In his mind, he wasn't a villain. He was a protector of his family's legacy. This twisted logic only deepened the horror of his crimes, as it became clear how far he was willing to go to maintain his illusion of control. Elena, devastated by the revelations, struggled to process her brother's betrayal. For years, she had dismissed Victor's obsessive behavior as harmless passion. Now, she was forced to confront the reality that her brother had used their family's legacy as a weapon. The guilt weighed heavily on her. Had she acted sooner or paid closer attention, could these deaths have been prevented? Unable to face the community or the memories tied to the café, Elena made the difficult decision to sell Black Brew and leave Stonehaven for good. Frank DeSantis, though physically weakened by the effects of the ricin, found a sense of purpose in helping to bring Victor to justice. The retired detective had spent his career solving other people's mysteries, but this case had struck close to home in a way he never anticipated. Though he survived, the experience left him haunted by the fragility of trust and the darkness that can hide in the most unexpected places. Mia Lancaster published an exposé detailing the case, from Victor's descent into obsession to the victims whose lives were cut short by his deadly schemes. Her article served as both a warning and a memorial, a reminder that danger can lurk in the most mundane corners of life, and that even the seemingly ordinary can harbor deep, destructive secrets. Black Brew Coffee Roasters closed its doors forever, its once vibrant atmosphere now tainted by tragedy. Yet the story of the café lived on, a chilling tale of obsession, betrayal, and the deadly cost of unchecked ambition. For the people of Stonehaven, the legacy of Black Brew was a stark reminder that even the things we trust most can turn against us in the end. Thank you for joining us on Mystery Minds. If this story left you shocked, intrigued, or questioning your next cup of coffee, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. What do you think of Victor's actions? Could this tragedy have been prevented? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe.